Let's be honest, the business world is kind of drowning in buzzwords. So today, we're going to cut right through all that noise and get to what really drives success. We're going to look at 4 truths that, honestly, go against a lot of the common advice you hear out there.
Sound familiar? If you're an entrepreneur, I'm guessing it does. You're out there trying to build something real, and you're just surrounded by this fog of trendy, kind of vague concepts. It's super easy to feel like you're missing something or that you're just not speaking the right language.
So that's what this is all about. We're going to replace the hype with 4 powerful, impactful truths that'll help you focus on what actually moves the needle. This is about giving you a clear, actionable path forward.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to totally deconstruct the idea of the pivot. Then we'll figure out who your real biggest competitor is, and trust me, it's probably not who you think. After that, we'll see how tech is leveling the playing field for everyone. And finally, we'll talk about the surprising power of, well, doing nothing at all. Okay, let's dive right into our first topic, the pivot. It's a term that gets thrown around all the time, but honestly, it's widely and I think kind of dangerously misunderstood. A lot of people are just using it completely wrong.
So first things first, what is a pivot really? A true pivot isn't just a tiny little tweak to your product. No, it's a fundamental, significant shift in your strategy. Think about going from selling only in physical stores to a completely online business. That's a pivot. Or deciding to target a totally new type of customer. That's a pivot. Let's put this side by side because it makes it super clear. A pivot is a major strategic shift. What it is not is a minor product change, changing a color or adding a small feature. That's just called an iteration, an improvement. And it's also not just starting something totally unrelated. That's not a pivot, that's just starting a new business.
And here is a perfect real-world example of this confusion. Someone actually said they were pivoting from selling tech to running a dark kitchen. I mean, come on, that's not a pivot. That's closing one company and launching a completely different one. And that distinction, it really, really matters.
So why is this so dangerous? Well, calling a business failure a pivot can be a way to hide from the shame of closing down. And more importantly, it lets you skip the postmortem, all the critical lessons you learned from figuring out what went wrong. It can easily become just an excuse to quit when things get hard, instead of pushing through the challenges where the real growth happens.
So that leads us right into our second truth. We're always taught to think of our competitors as the other companies selling similar stuff. But what if I told you your biggest, most ruthless competitor is actually the clock? The reality, especially in places like South Africa, is that customers now expect everything immediately. This whole culture of instant gratification has completely changed the game, particularly for small and medium businesses that might not have a huge team ready to answer questions 24/7. And the numbers on this are just staggering. Get this, 50%. That's how many potential leads you lose simply because you don't respond fast enough. Half of them, gone.
And it doesn't stop there. 67% of your customers now expect an immediate response when they ask something. Not in an hour, not later today, they mean right now.
And for customer support, it gets even crazier. A full 90% of customers want an instant answer to their support questions. The patience for waiting has just vanished.
When you see it all laid out like this, the message is crystal clear. This isn't just some small customer service issue anymore. Not responding instantly is a huge financial risk that costs you leads, sales, and your reputation.
Okay, so if time is the enemy and the stakes are that high, what's the solution? How can a small business possibly compete with that? Well, that brings us right to our third truth. Powerful technology is not just for the big guys anymore.
The solution is something you could call Main Street tech. See, that same crisis of instant gratification has actually sparked a revolution in accessible, affordable technology. The tools you need to compete on speed are now available to pretty much everyone.
And here's how it's working. Tech companies are now offering amazing tools like AI chatbots and automation as a service. They handle the entire setup, the training, all the customization. This means any business can have 24/7 support and automate their lead generation, all without hiring a big, expensive tech team. It is genuinely leveling the playing field.
All right, let's get to our final and maybe my favorite, most counterintuitive truth. And it ties back perfectly to that whole pivot idea we started with. Sometimes the absolute best strategic action you can take is to take no action at all.
See, here's the trap so many entrepreneurs fall into. They hit a rough patch, they see a challenge, and they immediately think it's a sign that they're on the wrong path. So they panic and decide to pivot way too easily, often throwing away tons of valuable progress just because of a temporary roadblock.
And this brings us to the core lesson, this killer piece of advice. Before you make a massive change, a real pivot, you need to just stop. You need to pause. This isn't about giving up. It's about choosing disciplined patience over a knee-jerk emotional reaction.
So, if we put all of this together, what does this new framework for success actually look like? Well, it's all about disciplined leadership. Number 1, you strategically manage time because you know it's your real competitor. Number 2, you smartly adopt the tech that lets you win that race against time. And number 3, you develop the wisdom to know when to hit the gas and, crucially, when to hit the brakes and just pause.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. We've talked about misusing the pivot, the race against time, how tech can help, and the power of pausing. Looking at your own business right now, which one of these common assumptions do you think could be holding you back the most?